In this lecture, we'll be introducing function expressions. Using function expressions, we'll be building functions within code execution rather than at a program load time. Over here, you can see that we have a function called sumNumbers, and we are passing two parameters x and y to it, and then we are returning the sum of these two numbers. Now, this function builds in memory immediately when the program loads. So rather than building such functions, it would be much better if we build a function which is executed only when it reaches that line of code. And in order to do that, we'll be making use of function expressions, and it's pretty easy to create one. Over here you can see that we'll take the same example. So here we'll say var sum equals, and then we'll keep the function expression over here. So this is a function expression. Here you'll note that the function keyword will now assign the following function to the variable. So this function is now assigned to a variable called sum, and since this is an assignment operation, you can see that we are terminating it by a semicolon. And this loads only when this particular line of code is reached inside your program. So we can see that over here, if I have to call this, I can say console.log, and inside that I'll pass sum and two numbers, 4 and 5, let's say, and then let's run this in browser. You can see that the output is coming up as 9. Now, one thing you must be noticing over here, and that is we are not making use of this name at all. We are making use of sum, which we have over here. So we can simply remove this and create an anonymous function. A function which is not having any name is called an anonymous function. So we can simply have this shorter version over here without the function name. And let's comment out this. So this will still work the same way, and you can see that the output is coming up as 9. You can see that when we are making use of this sum as a function, we are passing these two parameters x and y. Now if I just give you a definition of this, so I can say console.log, and if I just say sum inside this, and let's run this over here, you'll see that it's coming up as a function which accepts two parameters x and y, and for that reason only we are providing it in this fashion: function x and y. Pretty simple. Now, as we have assigned this function to a variable, we can pass this function to another function. So we can say that let's have another function, and let's call it as log. So we can say log equals function, and this time this one is not taking any parameters but just logging out a default message. So we can say console.log, and here we can say function expression in progress, and let's close this. Now this function can then be assigned as a parameter to another function. Let's have another one. We can say print message, and inside that we can have a parameter. Let's call it message, and here we can have this message function executed. Now let's call print message over here and pass the log function to it, and let's run this in browser. You can see that it's executing that function log, and we are getting function expression in progress as the log message. So that way you can see that we can store some results in a function and then pass that function to another function which can then make use of that result further down the line for processing. So this was a brief introduction about function expressions. We'll be covering more in upcoming lecture.